Hello there, you're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time to see what's making the headlines. No guesses tonight. With the Daily Mirror's associate editor, Kevin Maguire, and the Daily Mail's Whitehall editor, Claire Ellicott. Welcome to both of you. So let's take a look at the front pages then, shall we? Kicking off with the Telegraph. Starmer unveils his big state Britain. That's how the Telegraph sums up Labour's King's Speech, with promises to nationalise the railways, run energy projects, and even crack down on junk food adverts. Red Revolution. Bigger state and higher spending is the reaction in the Daily Express. Kevin's paper, The Mirror, describes the measure as taking back control. Keir's crown jewels is how the Metro headlines the measures laid out in the King's Speech. Financial Times says Labour has promised a decade of renewal with measures designed to unlock the UK's economic growth. The Guardian too says the new government is putting growth and planning at the heart of its drive to fix the country. But Claire's paper, The Daily Mail, asks how will plans to give workers greater rights help that growth to actually happen? The Eye reporting that under Labour's proposals, Avanti West Coast is the first rail firm that could be nationalised, while The Times focuses on the plan to forge a new relationship with Europe, which could see some small boat migrants being sent back to France in exchange for accepting others legally. And finally, with a heatwave looming, something different, the Daily Star warns of the threat of deadly stingrays lurking near our beaches. Really? Really? Anyway, a reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's papers. It's a heatwave of one day, let's be honest about it, apart from the stingrays. Anyway, let's go to the King's Speech. Goodness, that was a long read for the King, wasn't it, Claire?
Yes, and he mastered it. He did a brilliant job. But 40 bills, and we've heard a lot of them before. A lot of them were in Labour's manifesto. So there weren't huge announcements today, but it was entrenching Keir's worldview. This is what he wants. It's very, interventionist. It's a big state, and there are a lot of, GB Energy, want to nationalise the railways. You're going to have lots of intervention in schools, making sure that teachers are qualified, and various other measures, and a lot of kind of things that would be called nanny state, stopping smoking, having this rolling ban on children, starting smoking. So this is, it was quite hard to pin down what Keir Starmer thought. We were all struggling with this for a long time. And, this is his first opportunity, really, to sum that up. And this is what he sees Britain as. He wants, the government to be interventionist. He wants the state to play a big role in all of our lives. And he set this out. It's very summed up today.
I think he wants to empower us.
Oh, yeah,
No, people with money have nannies, so why can't we have a nanny for us all? As Jacob Rees-Mogg would say, nanny knows best, doesn't it? Mary Poppins out there. It was a big King's Speech, 40 bills. I suppose Charles can justify the tax-free inheritance he got and everything. Anyway, as you know, but I think it'll be generally welcome. There are no surprises. He is no drama Starmer. He doesn't want to really veer away too much from his manifesto, particularly not early on, if you're going to rebuild trust. But I think it's pretty ambitious. If they get it, they'll get it through the House of Commons, but if they can make it work, from railways to energy, all those other issues that you were kind of saying with a slight curl, I thought, of the lip. I think they're pretty good. I think Britain will be a better country if they're implemented. It might work better, because that is one of the problems now. So much appears not to work, and you look at the railways, where privatisation's been a disaster. And it's the way, it's the Eye, isn't it?
Yep,
sorry,
Avanti
West Coast. I think most people who live on that line, going up to Manchester and Glasgow, Liverpool, everywhere in between, would be delighted if it was improved. But you take back control, as the Mirror has the headline, but you take back control. It does mean that Lou Hague, the Transport Secretary, he'll be responsible in a much more direct way.
Yeah. And so, when things go wrong.
When things go wrong, it'll go to her door, but she will be able to have greater control.
Yeah, I thought you said rebuilding or rebuild trust then, and I thought, well, they had to take trust out of the notes, didn't they, the civil service notes, because of criticism about what happened when she didn't take the advice of the Office for Budget Responsibility, which has been strengthened. She put out a statement saying it's a failing organisation, so that's all, controversial. There's your paper then, taking back control as opposed to the big state, which we've seen in the Telegraph. Taking back control, will it work? Will people notice a change? do
Yeah,
you
it's
think?
it's a direct, in the referendum campaign, it was a very strong message from the Leave campaign. Of course, Starmer was a big stay in, but take back control. People want control. I think if the state is there, and there is a yearning, we saw it during COVID, people want protection. And they want security and they want support. Now, if you just say it's a big state that's spending and wasteful and not operating properly, that's no good.
Well, is this a pandemic hangover that we want to be looked after more? Because the Daily Telegraph, Starmer unveils his big state Britain. Are we more nannied because of that era, or even after the financial crisis when the banks had to be taken over?
Well, I think the furlough scheme really changed people's mindsets. The state paid people's wages for years, and we had lockdowns. People really kind of ceded control to the state over that time, and that we saw with the spike in energy prices afterwards that the public actually really wanted the state to step in and control their bills. And actually, we saw in the wake of Liz Truss and the market meltdown that people thought that the government should step in and pay their mortgages. And it's a real change in mindset compared to years before that. So I think the British public really has changed its mindset. And I think probably that is one of the reasons we've got a Labour government and why some of these policies are going to be popular.
It's mainstream European social democracy, that's what it is. But big state, do you want the NHS to be there when you're ill, make you better? You do. That's if you're a big state. Do you want your kids educated in decent schools?
But
That's big
Kevin, the
state.
argument has always been we want, Swedish, Scandinavian services with American tax rates, and this is the rub, isn't it?
Which is why you come down to the Guardian and the FT, all on economic growth. The ranch, number 10 Downing Street, is bet on economic growth. We've had really poor growth the last 14 years, or go back to 16 years, the financial crisis.
Yeah.
You get growth mortaring again, you will produce the money to finance the goods. Otherwise, there's going to be an issue of either borrowing or tax. I think that's inescapable. It's a massive gamble.
Yeah. And yet again today, we've had inflation figures, inflation in the service sector, higher than expected, delaying once again. It looks like interest rates coming down for mortgage holders and those who are indebted. Where's the growth coming from, and how quickly will changes like the planning system trigger that growth that they look like they're relying on?
Well, this is one of the big questions at the heart of this is if growth is paying for what Keir Starmer sees the state looking like in years to come, how on earth do you actually get that growth? Now, Rachel Reeves has given big speeches, the Chancellor, I was about to say Shadow Chancellor, not anymore.
Yeah, same here.
She's given speeches saying that, changing planning laws will help and, there's other ways that we can get growth going. But actually, to go back to Liz Truss again, we don't really know how, you can't really control growth. You can get the economic circumstances right and hope for the best, but really you don't really have control over those factors. Wars in Ukraine can influence it, other things. And also, the shake-up of the planning system is really interesting because, the Mirror front page saying take back control. Actually, they've got a big devolution plan where they plan to devolve powers to all of these, to all the nations, give mayors more power, give local authorities more power. But actually, they're also suggesting they're going to introduce top-down planning targets to make councils build more homes.
But that didn't come today, though, did it?
No, well, but this is something they're really planning to do, but they have to do it as part of a big kind of planning shake-up rather than doing it in law. But there's a real question of how you actually do that. And actually, when it comes to it, you meet reality. You have homeowners who don't want growth happen, who don't want things being built on their doorsteps. Actually, that is going to be a real problem.
There is a contradiction there, devolution and then centralising planning, which will happen, and it's not. It'll be for houses, it'll also be for power lines, or controversial. Prisons too, they say, designate them critical national security infrastructure. Then you don't have to go through the same planning process. So that is centralised. But you don't need laws to change all these things. For instance, the ban on wind turbines on land, but it's been about 9 years. That was just lifted. You can do that through regulation. But the failed state costs money. The railways, a fortune has gone in compared to the British Rail days, which weren't brilliant. I'm not harking back to curled sandwiches or anything. But the network got a fraction of the investment it gets now, but it wasn't leaking loads of cash in terms of
But that was also pandemic hit, wasn't it? That's the problem. It lost the ticket sales.
Yeah, but if the NHS not working properly is a cost because people, if they're ill and on those waiting lists, they're less likely to work. apart from the fact the impact on your life. So,
Yeah.
you know, you can call it the big state, the nanny state, call it what you like. I think it's an enabling state. It's
We need about 3 hours to do the 40 bills, don't we, really? After
They're definitely not that quick.
Next time, next time.
yeah.
Anyway, we talked briefly about it. Why might Taylor Swift be having a direct influence on the UK economy? I might give you a clue there. But anyway, back in a moment with that.
I'm Stuart Ramsey, and I'm Sky's chief correspondent.
Well, there's a real sense now that people are beginning to expect that this whole airlift is coming to an end, and they're really, really desperate. We saw snatch squads going in, grabbing people and putting them into trucks. You either live and recover, or you die.
Okay, so that's like a war.
That's the war, yes.
We help you understand the world with us.
Over the past 24 hours, the soldiers have been attacked on a number of occasions. It's really sending a clear message that Venezuela is eager for change. We've been crushed.
To take you to the heart of stories that shape our world. They were convinced the United States would become hooked. Well, they were right.
An enormous explosion has just come down. I think it was a monster that's just landed in between us.
The information on this could bring down the entire network. Not just in Iraq and Syria, but across the world.
It's not out of control, but the head withdrawn. It's so hot.
Welcome back. You're watching the press preview. We're joined once again by Kevin Maguire from The Mirror and Claire Ellicott from The Mail. Welcome back to both of you. No rest for the Prime Minister. Straight from the debate in the Commons, the King's speech earlier today, off to Chequers to meet the Irish Taoiseach ahead of this European meeting at Blenheim Palace tomorrow.
Yes, and the Times is reporting that that Keir Starmer will seek a better deal with Europe on migration. This is actually quite an interesting development for a Prime Minister who hasn't always, the first thing he did was junk the Rwanda deal that Rishi Sunak had drawn up. So he's seeking to lead on this really key issue. And we've already seen 1,000 boats have come across since Keir Starmer has taken over. It's a huge problem. It's going to carry on throughout the summer. It's going, as the weather gets better, which it looks like it will, and there will be more arrivals.
And a stick by which the Tories will beat Labour, obviously. We saw the pictures there with Simon Harris. Sir Keir's accepted an invitation to go to Ireland in September. And this, meeting, the European political community, is set up by Macron, wasn't it? It was a way of including the UK and even Ukraine. It's wider.
It's 40 countries rather than the 27 in the European Union now. I've just got to remember, of course.
Yeah.
It's just been 20 years. But something happened. But of course,
So long ago.
But when the UK was a member, the Dublin Agreement applied, which was an asylum seeker, refugee, could be returned to the country they first landed in within Europe. The UN Convention of Refugees allows you to travel through other safe countries to your destination. But there was this agreement. I remember speaking to Amber Rudd, who was the Home Secretary, said hundreds of people used to be sent back. Not thousands, but at the time there weren't thousands coming over in boats. Many came in trains and lorries. That doesn't exist now. According to the Times, Starmer wants a deal with Macron. Now, I can't see what's in France's interest, really, when it has many, many more times, 3 or 4 times as many people as the UK has, why they'd really want to take them back. But if you do, you'd have to have an EU-wide deal. I suspect there'd be the quid pro quo, which has been discussed in the past, that they would expect us to unite families. They would take, for instance, people who've arrived from Syria or Afghanistan, Iran or wherever and have family members in the UK to accept them. Now, that will make it more complicated to sell publicly, but there is a sense in it.
OK, very interesting. Now then, Taylor Swift, British economy, what is the issue here?
So Taylor Swift, obviously she's done this really popular tour. People are really fighting for all of these tickets.
Popular tour.
I don't know how else to say it. Millions of people wanted these tickets. People were falling over each other to get them. But they ended up meaning that lots of people booked hotel rooms. I think they did it for a lot of sporting events as well. And this is actually pushed up inflation, which has meant that the Bank of England can't cut rates or unlikely to cut rates at the next meeting, and that the economy stays as it is. And it's a very interesting thing, that even thought Taylor Swift could actually.
Yeah. So if you're 19, you went to a concert, Mum and Dad's mortgage is staying high, you're in trouble.
But inflation was tipped to fall from 2 to 1.9, but stayed because services were going up. But according to this, that the hotel rooms are 8.8%.
Amazing. Both of you, thank you both very much indeed. Kevin Maguire and Claire Ellicott, see you at 11. Here's the weather now. So the north and west will be cool with outbreaks of rain over the next few days, while the southeast will be mostly dry, sunny and, would you believe it, very warm. A mild start tomorrow, showery rain across much of Ireland, Northern Ireland and Western Scotland, but it will be mostly fine elsewhere. England and Wales will have a largely dry and sunny morning. The northwest will be cloudier with a few showery outbreaks. Elsewhere, it'll be mostly rather grey, with rain becoming increasingly light and patchy, but northeast Scotland looks mainly fine. Very warm in the southeast, cool in the cloudy north and west. Ireland brightening from the west during the afternoon. Northwest England, expect a few sharp showers, little change elsewhere. And tomorrow, mainly dry and sunny. Western Scotland looks rather grey and damp for a time. Far west will see cloud and rain returning later. Well, Sky News at 11 is next. We will have more on the measures in today's King's Speech and look again at the papers. It is 11 o'clock. This is Sky News' extended news review and press preview. Our top story. The Prime Minister pledges to take the brakes off Britain in a King's speech that puts the economy and stability at the heart of the new government's agenda.
This government has been elected to deliver nothing less than national renewal.
But as the government prepares to use its massive majority to drive through change on housing, transport,